Oh, hello. In today's video, we're going to be doing our faction review of the Nemesis Claw kill team. So this is our second faction review. We did Angels of Death yesterday. We're heading on through the Space Marines with Nemesis Claw today. So the Nemesis Claw have access to Infiltration and Seek and Destroy. I'm a big fan of Seek and Destroy still. I think that's one of the best decks to go for in this edition of the game. They're a 6-model team. So you're always going to take a Visionary because he's your leader. He comes with 4 options. Plasma Pistol and Power Fist. Misspoke. Bolt Pistol and Power Fist. Bolt Pistol and Power Maul. A Bolt Pistol and Power Weapon. And the Plasma Pistol and the Nostraman Chainblade. I genuinely think only 2 of these are worth considering. I don't like the Power Fist because it hits on 4s. I don't like the Power Maul because it's just kind of weak. But the Bolt Pistol Power Weapon and the Plasma Pistol and Nostraman Chainblade, they're both good. And I go backwards and forwards. And even while I was making these slides, I've gone backwards and forwards. I think maybe Bolt Pistol Power Weapon is the best. But Plasma Pistol and Nostraman Chainblade is if it is behind, it may even be slightly ahead. It's really a matter of millimeters. Ultimately, I think I'm going to say go for the Plasma Pistol and the Nostraman Chainblade, only because the Nostraman Chainblade is this really cool bespoke piece on the Nightlords upgrade sprue that's like covered in skulls and stuff, and it looks awesome, right? Whereas a power weapon is a power weapon is a power weapon. But yeah, no, I can understand the argument for the Bolt Pistol and Power Weapon combination instead, if that's the way that you want it to go. And then you're playing the game of choose which one not to take out of the following. So you've got a Fearmonger, a Gunner, who I think you're going to give a Melter Gun to if you take one, a Heavy Gunner, who I think you're going to give a Missile Launcher to if you take one, the Screecher, the Skinthief, the Ventrilokar, and then you do have a Warrior, but Warrior is what I'm going to call Auto-Exclude. We hear a lot about Auto-Includes, but we don't hear nearly so much about Auto-Excludes. And the Warrior's just he's pretty. There is one slightly memey potential niche case scenario for taking the Warrior, but generally speaking, you're not taking the Warrior. So faction rules. We'll start with in Midnight Cloud. Nightlords are one with darkness, employing it as an ally and a weapon. So whenever an enemy operative is shooting a friendly Nemesis Claw operative, that friendly operative is obscured if both of the following are true. It's more than 6 from enemy operatives it's visible to, and it has heavy terrain within its control range, or any part of its base is underneath vantage terrain. So this effectively means that you can be obscured, but you can be an inch in front of terrain. So that if you're going to stand there and try and be safe for a turn and then do a charge, you're not having to deal with the climb to get over the terrain during the charge, which is a big thing. It means that you can be a lot more loose with your positioning because there's a lot more of the board where you're relatively safe. Now, remember that obscured doesn't make you totally immune to the concept of being shot, and so it's often going to be better still to be totally behind things and not be a valid target if that is an option for you. Obviously, it's going to depend on exactly what the setup is and whether it's a big wall or a little wall or anything else. What I would say is, having got a lot of experience playing Nemesis Claw in the previous edition of Kill Team, be very aware of abilities like Auspex and other abilities that, like the Angels of Death Sniper and the Scout Sniper, have to just turn off obscuring at long range. Auspex has been, generally in the game, have been capped to be 8 inches in range, so generally you can probably be safe from them during turning point 1, and then it's only giving them an extra 2 inches over the 6-inch turning off of Midnight Cloud they could already do. But it really is those sniper rifles that you want to look out for, I think. Don't make the mistakes that I've made and deploy your troops in front of walls and things when actually they'd probably be better off behind them still. So just something to bear in mind. But it is still a very cool rule, okay? Don't let me devalue it. It is an extremely cool rule. You also have Astartes. Now, I'll read it. These genetically modified superhumans are made for one purpose: war. During each friendly Nemesis Claw operative's activation, it can perform either 2 shoot actions or 2 fight actions. If it's 2 shoot actions, a bolt pistol, bolt gun, or scoped bolt pistol must be selected for at least one of them. Each friendly Nemesis Claw operative can counteract regardless of its order. So, just to remind everyone that Astartes, despite having the same rule and being common to all the Marine teams, is different for every Marine team. So Nemesis Claw they have access to a heavy bolter, as you'll see later in the list. They can't double fire the heavy bolter, unlike, say, the Angels of Death, who can. So bear that in mind when we come to the heavy gunner. The big thing, honestly, these are more of a combat team. And having just fight twice on all the time, like in the previous edition of the game, you had to spend a CP to turn that on. Just having that all the time gives you a lot more flexibility in how you can play the game, and I think it's I think that fight twice is just a really super massive buff for the Nemesis Claw. I really do. Right. Strategy ploys. So let's look at the strategy ploys here. Prey sight. The Nightlords seem to be able to sense the fear of cowering prey, hunting down the craven with unerring precision. Whenever you're selecting a valid target for a friendly Nemesis Claw operative, enemy operatives within 6 of it cannot use light terrain for cover. Whilst this can allow such operatives to be targeted, assuming they're visible, it doesn't remove their cover save, if any. So, this is really good when it's really good. It essentially gives you Seek Light within 6. The only difference between this and Seek Light is if there's any abilities in the game that turn off Seek Light, they don't turn off this because they've written out the rules for Seek Light rather than just giving you Seek Light. Okay? But it's Seek Light within 6 for all your shooting. Do remember that almost all of your models have a bolt pistol that you can double fire, so you have a tool here to remove fools from vantage points. A big problem people are having as they're starting to experience this edition of the game is that because they've made the floor on vantage points be light cover, just being considered on a vantage point makes it almost impossible to remove unless you have Seek Light, and Nightlords can get team-wide Seek Light within 6, which is pretty cool. It also means that you can make crack grenades behave like grenades again, which is pretty good. So again, in previous editions of the game, crack grenades basically had Seek Light as in concept, and they took that away. But for if you use it and you've got Prey Sight open, you can throw your grenades up at people on vantage points as well, and that's pretty fun. So really nice. It's not one that you're going to use every turn, or indeed probably most turns, but there will be times when you look at the board state and go, oh yeah, Prey Sight, cool, turn that on. We're going to have to We've come for you. The Nightlords strike their foes swiftly, utilising shock and awe and terror to brutalise the enemy before they can lift a blade in response. So whenever a friendly Nemesis Claw operative is activated, if the first action it performs during that activation is the charge action, when it ends its move during that activation, you can inflict D3 damage on one enemy operative within its control range. So just be aware, right? It is very good. You're probably going to use it at the top of Turning Point 2 in most games. You know, the sort of generic play for Nightlords is you're going to try and spend Turning Point 1 setting up hopefully at least 2 like charges for Turning Point 2, and in Turning Point 2 you go, we've come for you, and you try and get your charges in and off, right, and brutalise the opponent. Now, this works really well in 2 ways. Number one, it's going to tip the balance a little bit when you're fighting against other Marine teams, just give them that extra bit of chip damage to make sure that on top of the bonuses you get for charging, you're actually going to win that combat, right? Which is really key, but also it has great synergy with the next thing we're going to read. Okay, so the Black Hunt. A terrible malice burns within the twin hearts of each Nightlord, and they enjoy nothing more than toying with their wounded prey. Whenever a friendly Nemesis Claw operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against a wounded enemy operative, you can reroll one of your attack dice. So this is pretty cool for a CP, because it has obvious synergy with We Have Come For You, right? Because you charge, you do at least 1 damage to them, and then you're going to fight them, and they're going to be a wounded operative. Remember, wounded is a keyword that literally is a rules term for has taken at least 1 wound. I think some people, coming from the older edition again, are confusing it with injured, which is half wounds. It's not that, it's just, we've taken a wound, we're wounded. It's clues in the name, really. Return to Darkness. The Nightlords move from shadow to shadow with an agility and speed belied by their beta transhuman bulk. I think this is strong, sure, because spending a CP to do I haven't read the rule. Read the rule. One friendly Nemesis Claw operative can immediately perform a free fallback or reposition action, but it must end that move within heavy terrain within its control range, or any part of its base underneath vantage terrain. In addition, it cannot end that move closer to enemy operatives. So, this is strong, but it's really situational, right? Yeah, spending a CP to fall back for free in the strategy phase is probably really good. Because it means that you've done it in the strategy phase, so you can still charge, fight, double shoot, like whatever you want to do, right? Or it lets you get a free move in the strategy phase, which could be really good. But you can never use it to move nearer to any enemy operative, which is obviously an important thing to have in the game. Because a free move that you could just use to bound up the board would be ridiculous. But I'm just wondering, if the board state is complicated and you have like quite spread out opponents, it could be quite difficult to make sure that you don't accidentally move nearer to anybody. You know, if you're like half the table away from somebody on one side of you and then you move and it's like, actually, well, now you're slightly closer to him over there than you were at the start. So could be a tricky one to use. I need to play some. It's brand new to this edition as well, so I need to play some games with it and try and feel it out and see how often I use it. I think it's probably the weakest of the strat ploys for sure. Nemesis Claw never, well, hardly ever want to do a strategy ploy in turning point 1. So remember, now we do have a scouting option in the scouting phase, which is a free strat ploy. I don't think Nemesis Claw are ever or often going to use that, just because they're not, you're unlikely to get a charge, essentially, off, or even a 6-inch shoot off in TP1, so it's not really worth buffing those things, nor are you going to really be in a position to move backwards in TP1, so yeah, I don't think that's something you're going to take, which is a weakness because it does tell your opponent that you're not taking that scouting option, at least if they've watched this video and thought deeply about the team. So it narrows down your potential scouting options to the move or the free piece of equipment. FireFight Ploys. We'll start with Proclivity for Murder. Each brutal kill a Nightlord performs serves to feed their bloodlust and drives them to further acts of terrible violence. Use this FireFight ploy after a friendly Nemesis Claw operative incapacitates an enemy operative within its control range. That friendly operative can immediately perform a free charge or dash. For the former, it cannot move more than 3. Even if it's performed an action that prevents it from performing the charge or dash action. This is amazing. It's really, really good. Bear in mind that you have fights twice active all the time forever. So, charge, fight, kill, proclivity for murder, and then fight again, and then potentially kill again is like a really credible option, especially against like a 7-8 wound model to 8 wound team. Now this combo was possible in the previous edition, but it required you to see that you were going to be able to do it and then burn a CP turning on fights twice in the strat phase. Now that you just have, this is one of the things I'm most happy about with Nightlords. Now that you just have fights twice all the time, this is just always an option that you can just pull out your back pocket and go, cool, killed him, I'll charge and also fight this guy, why not? And this is what makes, we'll talk about it right at the end, this is what makes Champion such a good, in my opinion, Tac Op for the Nemesis Claw, because killing 2 weaker models with one of your Marines in one turn, you don't need this to do it, because you can always shoot twice, right, is an option, or shoot, charge, fight is an option. There are lots of ways to do it, but this just gives you that really decent chance to kill 2 guys in 2 combat actions, which is pretty cool. It is pretty cool, right? We'll deal with Death to the False Emperor. Death to the False Emperor. The Nightlords, like all heretic Astartes, bear a particular hatred for the corpse-worshipping soldiers of the Imperium. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Nemesis Claw operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against an operative with the Imperium keyword. It's about half the teams in the game, I should think. That friendly operative's weapons have the ceaseless weapon rule until the end of that sequence. If that enemy operative also has the Astartes keyword, that friendly operatives have the relentless weapon rule to the end of the sequence. So remember, ceaseless is reroll any dice of any one result. Relentless is reroll any dice that you want, right? Obviously, this is situational because against a lot of teams in the game, you're just playing with one less Firefight ploy. Like, it has that fluff, like, catch to it where it's just not going to come up. Right, if you know, okay, I'm playing, Halfkin Salvagers, cool. I'm just got one less Firefight ploy. But when it does come in, I think it's really good. I've read this a couple of times. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Nemesis Claw operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against an operative with the Imperium keyword. That means at any point during the shoot, fight, or retaliate action, right? So, just to double check, I'm 90% sure this is the case, right? But you can use this after you've rolled the dice, and you're looking at the dice, and you're going, oh, yes, if I had Ceaseless, I could re-roll all these ones or all these twos before you spend the CP. You don't have to spend the CP at the start of the action, I don't think. But I'm a tiny weeny bit unsure. If you do have to spend it at the start of the action before you start to roll any dice, then it's much worse. Like, by a lot. Vox Scream. By modulating the frequency of the Hell-mounted Vox units, Nightlords operatives can unleash a terrifying scream with the ability to stun an opponent. Use this Firefight ploy when your opponent would activate an enemy operative. Your opponent cannot activate that operative during this activation. If there are no other enemy operatives eligible to be activated, this ploy has no effect. This ploy costs you 1 additional CP for each previous time you use it during the battle, e.g. 1 CP the first time, 2 CP the second time, etc. I think this is really an iconic ability for the Nightlords. If you don't have initiative, but you have a charge ready to go, this stops your opponent from charging you, or moving away, or shooting you, or doing any of the other cowardly things that they might want to do to avoid being charged by a Skinthief. People should just stand there and take it, So it lets you stop them from moving, so they have to do something else, which is really, 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 really beautiful. If you have the initiative and you've managed to set up 2 charges in turning point 1, then you can take 1 with your initiative, and then you can deny them from moving the other guy to safety, and then take the other charge in your next activation, potentially, which is another really good use of Vox Scream. Obviously, really good opponents are going to try really hard not to let you get close enough, not to shoot some of your guys, and to try and do other things to stop that from happening. But that's like the basic plan, right? A really canny player who knows what you have, and I think, in my experience, what separates the good players from the great players, and I class myself as a good player and not a great player in this analogy, is the great players are the ones with a really good understanding of what the opponent's team can do. Like, if your opponent really understands what Vox Scream is, they might try and bait it out. Look out for people when they go, I'm going to activate this. Are you going to let me? Because that's a good clue that they're trying to bait you. And try not to use Vox Scream emotionally. If they've got a sniper, and you're pretty sure the sniper's got a shot on one of your guys, and they go to activate the sniper, don't Vox Scream it just because you don't like it. Right, only Vox Scream it if you've actually got a plan for something that you're going to do to stop the sniper from killing that person. And do they have 2 targets? And therefore, if you save your favoured one, are they just going to shoot the other one? Like, really weigh it up, because it's not just the waste of the CP today. It's the fact that next turning point you might want it for something where it's a lot more important, and you've just boosted the costs to 2 CP or 3 CP, which might put it out of your reach. Right, so. Really, really good, really, really iconic, but, just don't use it when it's pointless, basically. Dirty Fighter. The Nightlords have no respect for the concept of honour, and will use whatever underhanded tactics they deem necessary. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Nemesis Claw operative is retaliating. At the start of the resolve attack dice step, you can resolve one of your successes before the normal order. if you do, you cannot resolve any other successes during this sequence. I mean, leaving aside the fact that I think you have... Let me just double check before I say something really stupid. We do have, don't we, on the ye olde... no, see, the Skinthief, the crit damage is 6. So you haven't got anything with crit damage 7, unless you take a Power Fist, I suppose, right? Which is potentially a slight niche argument for the Power Fist. So you're not one-hitting anybody who charges you with a crit, but frankly, 7 wound models are unlikely to charge you. Where this is going to come up is those late game... I always say that by turning point 4, if models are still on the table, Kill Team has a way of degrading into like a fist fight in a minefield, right? So you'll have wounded models going, well, I'm wounded and he's wounded, but if I charge him, it doesn't matter that I have... we've all experienced this. It doesn't matter that this guy only has 4 wounds. If I charge him, I just have to roll a hit, or potentially even riskier, they go, I just need 1 crit. Often it's I just need 1 hit, and they'll kill the wounded Nightlord. And this you can pull out the back and go, actually... that's not what's going to happen. I'm going to hit you first, and potentially then win that sort of late game fist fight in a minefield style fight, which is pretty cool. I would say this is one of those ploys that you might never need to play, because you should play the game in an open and transparent manner without gotchas. If somebody's weighing up charging you in this sort of situation, it's good sportsmanship to say, look, I've got this FireFight ploy, Dirty Fighter. If that then, it's one of those things, on the one hand you're being open and transparent, on the other hand you're kind of messing with, in a way you're getting inside the head, because you're saying, oh, well, I've got this, and then they might decide to do something else altogether, and save you the CP, and you still get the same result. So, I don't actually quite know what the most sporting thing is to do, but I would tend to always, from the best place in the world, remind my opponent of what I could do as a result of what they've done, right? And if they then decide not to do it, you've still benefited from having the ploy in a very real way there, even if you never get to use it. So that's it's a cool one. It is a cool one. I think there's a lot of CP that I want to spend as Nemesis Claw, which is a bit of a problem, but there we go. Right, let's get into the Visionary. So, weapon-wise, we'll look at his stats first, just very quickly. He has the bog-standard Marine Leader stats, so 3 APL, a move of 6, a 3-up save, and 15 wounds, so an extra wound because he's a leader, and 32 mil base, all very standard. There are 2 options that I like, the Power Sword and the Bolt Pistol, the Plasma Pistol and the Chain Blade. Basically, if you take the Chain Blade, you're trading lethal 5-up on the Power Sword for rending, right? And you also lose a point of crit damage versus the Power Sword. But you gain a point of crit and you gain P1 on the pistol, and the probably not great idea option to go hot and get lethal 5-up and an extra point of normal. But the Bolt Pistol can be fired twice. So on the face of it, the Bolt Pistol and the Power Sword is the best combo. But the Visionary is often going to want to do Premonition. So you're often not going to want to pay the AP to shoot a Bolt Pistol twice, because you want to generate that extra CP. It's a really, between those 2 combos, I think it's a really tough one. I can't see an argument for them all. I just prefer lethal 5-up to shock every single day in concept, and I don't really like the Power Fist because it hits on a 4, which is sad. But yeah, that's me. Let me know what you think in the comments. So every turn you generate D3 prescience points. I'll read it. Prescience, Psychic. In the ready step of each strategy phase, you gain D3 prescience points. You can spend your prescience points in the Firefight phase as follows. You cannot use each of the following rules more than once per turning point. Foreboding, Psychic. Whenever it's your turn to activate a friendly operative, you can spend 1 of your prescience points to skip the activation. Portent, Psychic. Whenever an attack die inflicts normal damage on the operative, you can spend 1 of your prescience points to ignore that inflicted damage. You can't spend your prescience points if this operative is incapacitated, and you've also got Premonition for 1 AP. You spend 1 of your prescience points to gain a CP. You can't perform that while within control range of an enemy operative, or more than once per turning point. So you get D3, and essentially each turn you can skip an activation for 1 point, you can ignore a dice of normal damage on the visionary for 1 point, and along with an AP you can gain a CP. I think you really, really, really want to gain a CP. Like, as often as you can, as often as you're not needing that 3 APL on your visionary, you're wanting to gain that CP, because we've just been through the ploys, and they're really very good, right? Skipping an activation is interesting, and so it's quite good against elites, right? Because it can help you to make sure you get that all-important last activation, which is always the safest one. So I like that, potentially. It's going to depend on what you roll, though. Because honestly, if I only have one prescience point in turn 1, I want to use it in premonition. I also really want to have a point available at all times in case there's a shot on the visionary that I haven't seen somewhere, and I want to use that portent ability, right? So I'm only really going to use the skip if I roll that 3, so a third of the time. On turning point 1, and then it gets a bit easier, because as long as I've got one, because these persist from turn to turn, so as long as I got one saved up for portent, I don't need to be generating 3 every turn, unless I'm using my portent ability. Yeah, so it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. It depends what you're going to prioritise, but personally for me, I think trying to get that CP whenever it's possible is going to be a great thing. The Fearmonger. So the Fearmonger, complicated fellow, standard marine stat line. He has the scoped bolt pistol short range and scoped bolt pistol long range. This is essentially a bolter that gains lethal 5 up when you're within 8. Okay? Think about it that way. That makes it more sense. Okay? So 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3, 4. Or short range, 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3, 4. Range 8, lethal 5 plus. He has an interesting grenade in the Terrachem vial. So this is limited ones. You only get to throw once per game. Range 6, a 2-inch blast, devastating 3, saturating Terrachem. So you're rolling 5 dice, 3s, your normal damage is 2, your crit damage is 0, but you've got that devastating 3. This is a real gambler's weapon. You're rolling 5 dice and you just hope if you get 2 crits, really good. If you can get 2 crits or even 3 crits, really, really good, because you're doing loads of damage through that devastating ability. If you don't roll any crits, it's just doing sets of 2 damage. It does have a blast of 2 inches, which is pretty cool, but it doesn't put that Terrachem ability on either unless it's a crit. What is the Terrachem ability? In the resolve attack dice step, if you inflict damage with any critical success, the operative, this weapon is being used against, gains 1 of your Terrachem tokens, if it doesn't already have one, and Terrachem is at the top of your strategy phase. You gain D3 damage on each operative with a Terrachem token. So that's interesting. I find that Terrachem is a real psychological threat. People don't like the sound of you'll take D3 damage every turn until you're dead, but really, you've got to weigh it up depending on how many wounds you have and what the turning point is as to how scary that actually is. Yeah. The Tainted Blade, he's a little bit worse than the Chainsword on the Ventrilokar, which we'll get to, like a standard Astartes Chainsword, because he's only got that normal damage of 3 instead of that normal damage of 4. But he does do Terrachem. He applies his poison on the crit. Yeah, he's alright in combat. Poison objective is pretty good. So for 1 AP, you can select one objective marker the opponent controls to gain... this operative controls, to gain a Terrachem token. It can't be an objective marker within control range of an enemy operative, or one that already has one of your Terrachem tokens. The first time that objective marker is within control range of an enemy operative that doesn't have one of your Terrachem tokens, that operative gains a Terrachem token. Then inflict 2d3 damage on it if it's during an action at the end of the action, which I think is pretty cool. He's okay. He's one of the ones that's vaguely on my list. Remember, as we go through, we're looking for one model to leave at home. Let me know in the comments, is it the Fearmonger? Is that the model that you leave at home? And as we go through, I'll flag up the other ones that I'm pondering as potentially being the weakest. Is the Fearmonger a model you leave at home? he's not that killy in an edition that's very focused on killing, but he's not killy. Like, he's still pretty... I mean, another thing to note is that with your Terracam Val, if you can do it in your prey sight turn, if you have one, right, throw grenades, you can give it that Seek Light effectively back again as well, which is pretty good. Don't know. Take him or leave him. Let me know. Nightlord Gunner. So it's a guy, and his thing is he has a melter gun. Melter gun, you roll 4 dice, hits on 3s, 6 normal damage, 3 crit damage, devastating 4, piercing 2, a 6-inch range. Now, you might be thinking, no, take a plasma gun to keep them honest, which is what people say when they mean, you need to have a long-range weapon, people to argue, so that your opponent can't just stand a guy on a vantage point on engage and just shoot you, inserting point 1, and you can't do anything about it, right? Which is true. If you have no long-range weapons, that is something that can happen to you if your guys aren't all concealed and stuff. And potentially all your guys in this team could well be obscured, right? Unless they've got one of those snipers, I guess, but then you won't get a shot back on the sniper, so keeping them honest with the sniper isn't so much of a concern. If it is something, and I need to play some games of this edition to really know if it is something, if it is something that you're concerned about, take a missile launcher. If you really want an infinite range, strong weapon, a missile launcher's just better than a plasma gun now, which, coming from the old edition, is a weird thing to say, but I think it's true. But I like the melter gun for the gunner. The melter gun also has synergy with the bolt pistol, right? So, because it's quite short range, the bolt pistol is quite short range, you've got that shoots twice thing, so you could potentially move melter gun and then bolt pistol someone else. All this said, is this the guy that you drop? Like, I don't actually think he is, to be fair, because I really want a melter gun. I just really want an AP2 melter gun that's going to kill what it shoots at. Almost no other weapon in the game can do that now, reliably. Yeah. Melter gun, I don't think I'm dropping him. Nope, ignore that. I still think, out of the ones we've seen so far, the Poisoner is the least good. I keep calling him the Poisoner. He has a name. His name is the Fearmonger. The Fearmonger is the least, like a fishmonger, but for bad dreams, is the worst one so far. Then we've got the Heavy Gunner. So the Heavy Gunner's really interesting, because he has 2 weapons that both kind of are the same weapon, in that they're both a heavy reposition only weapon, so you can use him and you can do a full reposition, you just can't also dash, right, and shoot your gun, so it's like heavy but not really, okay. And you've got the heavy bolter and the missile launcher, both of which have a really screw up one guy mode of fire and a sort of crowd clearance mode of fire, right? So for the heavy bolter, it's got focused, which is 5 dice hitting on 3s, 4/5, heavy reposition only, piercing crits 1, and then it's got its sweeping mode where it goes down to 4 dice hitting on 3s, 4/5, heavy reposition only, piercing crits 1, torrent 1. That's pretty good. Right, it's not bad. I just prefer the missile launcher. So the missile launcher has a crack profile, so it's single shot profile. 4 dice hitting on 3s, 5/7. Right, heavy reposition only, piercing, not piercing crits, piercing 1. So I think you're just far more reliably going to get a chunk of damage through with your crack missile compared to your focused heavy bolter shot. And then you've also got the option of the frag. So the frag is weaker than sweeping heavy bolter, right? So it's 4 dice hitting on 3s. It's only 3/5 and not 4/5. But it's blast 2 rather than torrent 1. But it does lose piercing crits, which the heavy bolter has. So if you really want to play it deeply, you can make the argument, which is like, oh, well, you build and paint both and take them to the game, and then if you're playing against a really horde team, you go heavy bolter, and if you're playing against a really elite team, you go missile launcher. I actually think, even if you're playing against a horde team, a good player's not going to give you just torrent 1 shots that are really cool all day long, right? You're still going to end up shooting your focus profile, your single shot profile some of the time, and then you'd be better off with the missile launcher. Right? I don't think I'm wrong there. So, I think you're taking a missile launcher. And also, arguably, frag is better than a sweeping heavy bolter, just because the frag is blast 2 as opposed to torrent 1. So, it's much harder for your opponent to just positioned safely so they can't be got by it, right? Blast 2 is quite a big deal. Is this the model you drop? And I say that because historically, this has been the model I've dropped. Now, partially because in the old edition of the game, to make him good, you had to spend equipment on a piece of equipment to make heavy work properly, to let you move with the gun, which I never wanted to do because I wanted to get other equipment. Now that equipment is essentially baked into the model, so I'm liking the heavy gunner a lot more than I did in the old edition. And plus, this edition is very much focused on killing, right? The kill op and the tac op we're going to pick is all about killing. So I'm thinking about the heavy gunner with a missile launcher, right? I've never used him, but I've got one painted and ready to go. The Screecher. So the Screecher has one weapon. It's some lightning claws, 5 dice hitting on 3s, 4/5, ceaseless, lethal 5-up. So ceaseless is reroll all dice of one result, right? You have Screecher. So whenever an enemy operative is within three of this operative is shooting, fighting, or retaliating, your opponent cannot reroll one of their attack dice, which is pretty good. Like, you can't have a reroll, which is good. Appetite for cruelty. Whenever this operative is fighting against a wounded operative, the lightning claws go to lethal 4-up. So if you have We Have Come For You active, so that when you charge you do D3 damage, you're also going to turn on the lethal 4-up. Now, a quick rules question: can you have ceaseless and balanced at the same time? Because if I'm right, I might not be right, but yeah. So the black helm, it just gives you can reroll one of your attack dice. So in theory, I don't see a reason why you couldn't have a situation where, you know, if you roll all your 5 dice and maybe you got like 2 2s and a 1, you could use the ceaseless to reroll a pair of 2s, and then the black hunt, if it was active, to reroll the 1, right? Makes him pretty reliable if you have both of those ploys up, which is something that you'd want because you really want to unlock that lethal 4-up. And he's just going to make sausage meat out of things that he breathes on, which is pretty good, I want to say. He hasn't got a gun, but he could throw a grenade. If you had grenades, if you bought them, this would be a guy that might want to throw a grenade, you know, for those times when he can't get a charge, and then he goes, but I have this crack grenade. And then you could use Parasite to make the crack grenade good. It's just something to think about. I like that a lot. Okay, we're on to the Skinthief, which is our second melee bully, big melee bully. And this guy has an Nostraman Chain Glaive, which is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/6 damage and rending. It's nice. He's a bit more survivable than the Lightning Claw fella. So his thing is he has Tyrant at the Skidding Pits. Whenever a normal or critical damage would inflict 3 or more damage, it inflicts 1 less. So that's going to make him harder to kill in combat. And he also has Flay Them Alive, so I'll read Flay Them Alive. Flay Them Alive. Once per turning point, when this operative incapacitates an enemy operative within its control range, you can select one other enemy operative visible and within 6 of either this operative or the incapacitated enemy operative until the start of the next turning point. That other enemy operative cannot control markers or perform the pickup marker or mission action. It's a great little free cherry on top, but really, the purpose of this miniature is to charge people and cut them into little pieces. I love the Skinthief. He's a cool dude. Don't forget that unlike the Screamer, the Skinthief has a bolt pistol, which an 8-inch range, which he can just fire twice. Which again, you know, he might just need to use one day. If you're playing into a team like, I don't know, Kazakin, probably kill one with a bolt pistol firing twice. You know, it's not as stylish as killing them with the chain glaive, but don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. A kill is a kill is a kill, right? Don't forget your options. The Ventrilokar. So the Ventrilokar has a chainsword, so he's alright in combat. Possibly slightly better in close combat than the I want to say poisoner again, Fearmonger, like Fishmonger. I'll try and remember. Whenever determining control of this marker, treat the opposite's APL stat as one higher. There isn't a change to its APL stats, so any changes are cumulative with this, so that's nice. I don't know how big controlling markers is going to be as a part of Kill Team. In the new edition, I need to play some games. A lot of people are saying, oh, you can kind of ignore the critical op, focus on the kill op, focus on the tac op. So we'll see. He has Disconcerting Mimicry, which is like a 6-inch magic debuff stick. So for 1 AP, I'll read it. Disconcerting Mimicry, Psychic. Select one enemy operative within 6 of this operative, then select one of the following for that enemy operative. You can only select each option once per battle. Until the end of its next activation, subtract 1 from its APL stat, change its order, or perform a free dash action. Specify the location for your opponent to move it to, and you can't do that in control range. Ventrilokar is such a cool miniature, but I actually am coming round, would I rather have this or a missile launcher? It's probably, in this version of the game, it's probably the missile launcher. Would I rather have this or a melter gun? It's probably the melter gun. Would I rather have this or the poison fellow? Right now, I'm saying the poison fellow. Right? I think this might be the one model that you don't take, which is a shame, because he's got an awesome half-dead marine on a stick. But that said, being able to dash one of your enemy models could come in really clutch, dashing them off an objective so they can't score it, dashing them closer towards one of your models so you can get a shot on them. Lots of potential there, but the stars really have to align for you to get that? I don't know. It's so hard because they're all good. I wish they were a 7-model team so they could be really broken. And then there's the warrior, the auto-exclude, as I termed him. So you can have this set up 2 ways. You can have a bolter, right? Or you can have a bolt pistol and a chainsword. I had a big conversation on the Angels of Death video about whether is it worth losing infinite range and going down to range 8 to gain, in this case you're gaining an extra point of attack as well. So probably you want the chainsword and the bolt pistol because you're getting an extra point of attack. That's really a big deal. He has a special rule. Cruel Tormentor. Whenever this operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against an injured enemy operative, or an enemy operative that has a wound stat of 7 or less, its weapons have a lethal 5-up. So, if you're playing against a team of specifically 7 wound miniatures, of which there are not that many, right? But if you're playing against... Whoops, don't just drop the mouse off the table, Phil. Sorry. If you're playing against a team with specifically 7 wound miniatures, let me just think. So, this guy versus, let's say, the Fearmonger. I mean, suddenly he has a better melee weapon, right? But because he's got that extra point of damage, he's not doing Terrachem, but he is doing lethal 5-up. He's got a better melee weapon. He doesn't have the Terrachem stuff. He doesn't have the long-range bolt rifle, bolt pistol thing. But, in this specific case, where you're fighting against 7 wound guys, it's so niche as to be just, really daft. But, maybe I can just about see it. But then the poison grenade's really fun and cool and has blast. So, it's probably not worth building and painting the extra miniature. But you get 10 in the box. But I built my spare ones with bolters because they look cooler. I don't know. Is there a place for the Nightlord Warrior? There aren't that many 7-wound teams anyway. So, it's a weird one. It is a weird one. Equipment. So we're going to start with Flayed Skin. Flayed Skin, bedecked with the bloody hides of butchered victims, the Nightlords inspire abject terror and revulsion in their enemies. Whenever an enemy operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against a friendly Nemesis Claw operative, within 2 of it, your opponents cannot reroll their attack dice results of 1. Yeah, I'll take that. I just take that every turn, because if anything's just a free buff for the whole team like this, right, that's just going to annoy your opponent, and it's going to give you stuff, I'm just taking it every game. Yeah. Let's go to Chain Snare. Chain Snare, composed of hooked chains attached to a length of chain. Composed of hooked blades attached to a length of chain. This weapon bites into the flesh or armour of the wielder's target, preventing them from fleeing. Whenever an enemy operative will perform the fallback action while within control range of a friendly Nemesis Claw operative, if no other enemy operatives are within that friendly operative's control range, you can use this rule. If you do, roll 2d6 or 1d6 if that enemy operative has a higher wound stat than the friendly operative. Bear in mind, that's basically going to be Space Marine leaders if they're not in combat with your leader because they've got 1 higher wound, and then like the Patriarch and like the Ogre, like a few things, but not a lot of things have got more wounds than your guys. If either result, or it says if any result is 4 up, that enemy operative cannot perform that action during the activation or counteraction, and no AP are spent on it. Bear in mind, you can do a fight action as a it's not a reaction, it's not Overwatch, a counteraction. You can fight as a counteraction, which is a thing that you might want to do. Somebody might well want to get away from you so they can shoot you. You know, I'm thinking of the case where if you find yourself in combat with somebody and that person is on only a couple of wounds and it's their turn, and they're like, oh, I can do a fight action. Oh, damn, I don't want to do a fight action because you've got that stupid ploy that's going to let you resolve a dice first. Okay, in that case, I guess I'll fall back and shoot you in the face. Oh, you've got Chain Snare, so I can't even potentially fall back. Like, that little interaction there, that's what makes it worth taking, right? Because realistically, you're not going to find yourself in combat with a guardsman with a plasma gun very often, because you will have cut his head off. But it's for that one where, there's been a combat with a Marine, you've just about failed to kill the Marine, he's standing there on two wounds, you're maybe there on 4 wounds, and he's going, my turn, I fight and kill you, no, damn, dirty fighting, I fall back, no, damn, roll 2 dice, 1 was a 4 up, I can't fall back, what am I going to do, I'm going to have to fight, you've killed me. That's why you always take Chain Snares. Take Chain Snares, take Flayed Skin, every single game. As to Comms Jammers. The Nightlords use jamming devices to sow chaos and confusion by preventing their panicked foes from communicating. Whenever an enemy operative is within 8 inches of a friendly Nemesis Claw operative, that enemy operative's APL stat cannot be added to. Note, this doesn't affect APL stats that have already been changed. This is ridiculously good, but it's not auto-take, because there's loads of factions out there that don't have comms-type abilities. So, you don't have to, revise and learn. This is the kill team community. You just say to your opponent, sorry, I'm just picking my equipment. Do you have anything on your team that hands out +1 APL? And almost every single person in the kill team community will just tell you. They won't try and be like, oh, what, you... They'll just be like, oh, yeah, no, I can do this, or I can do this. And that's the kind of groovy people that we are. So you don't need to, learn, really. Obviously, it's a bit of a flex if you just know, I know this team, and I know that they have this ability on the knob and on another guy. Ha! But, yeah. Against teams that can hand out extra APL, I think you really want Comms Jammers. Now, bear in mind, it's within 8 inches of the enemy operative who's the target. So you can't just park one of your guys within 8 inches of their commsman and then be like, now he can't do anything, right? But it has to be within 8 inches of the guy you're targeting. But bearing in mind that you want to get up the board, you want to get close to them, you want to get mixed up with them, and this is off every single one of your operatives, I just think it's really good, and it will shut down and screw up some teams like Kazakin that really rely on being able to toss out those plus APLs all the time. I think that's really neat as a piece of equipment. Grizzly Trophy. So Grizzly Trophy is a bit weird. Grizzly Trophy. Severed heads and limbs. Eyeballs plucked from the skulls of screaming victims. These macabre trophies and more cause the Nightlords' foes to waver. Once per battle, when a friendly Nemesis Claw operative incapacitates an enemy operative within 2, you can use this rule. If you do, that friendly operative gains one of your Grizzly Trophy tokens if it doesn't already have one. Whenever a friendly Nemesis Claw operative that has one of your Grizzly Trophy tokens visible to and within 2 inches of an enemy operative, subtract 1 from the attack stat of the enemy operative weapons. Okay, so there's a couple of things to deconstruct here. First of all, I am pretty sure you could only ever have one Grizzly Trophy, because it starts with once per battle. And then the text tries to make you forget that it said once per battle, because it says things like, if you do that, friendly trophy operative gains one of your Grizzly Trophy tokens, implying you can have multiple Grizzly Trophy tokens. If it doesn't already have one, implying you can have multiple Grizzly Trophy tokens. And then we've got one of your Grizzly Trophy tokens again, implying you can have multiple Grizzly Trophy tokens. But you could only generate a Grizzly Trophy once per battle. So you're only getting this once on one model, and it's after he's already incapacitated somebody within 2. Like, the buff that it gives, or the debuff that it gives out, is really powerful. But, unlike all the other equipment, it's just buffing one guy. And you have to do a thing, you have to like attune, or whatever you want to call it, before you actually get to use the equipment. It's the first one I'm going to drop. Sorry. The first one I'm going to drop is Comms Jammers if I'm playing against a team that doesn't have them. Right, but that's like that's a logic problem. That's not really a decision. Grizzly Trophy. If I don't feel like I want anything else, I'll take the Grizzly Trophy. But there is some universal equipment that you'd want to consider. So I think smoke grenades probably really good with this. Like, obviously, need to play some more games or any games of the Crow Edition of Kill Team. Hopefully on Sunday, all going well. Right. Smoke grenades, I think. Because fundamentally, you're trying to spend turn 1 moving up to them and not getting shot. Maybe you want to use smoke grenades. Maybe the terrain on Volcus is dense enough that you don't need them. But fundamentally, you want to. Your game plan is get up the table, get into position where in the next turning point you've got like at least 2 charges set up, right? And then play from there. So maybe you want smoke. Maybe you want ladders. Like, you're taking that missile launcher, maybe you want to get him up on a vantage point. You know, he doesn't have silent, but he will probably have conceal for, like, the whole game on his vantage point. Right? So maybe you want to consider a ladder, but it would basically just be for that one miniature. Your mileage may vary, right? And then also, don't forget your missile launcher can still be being quite mobile, because you can still do a full reposition and shoot. So you are robbing yourself of a body, but then there are less objectives to worry about. Ladders are a maybe, okay. Razor wire. So you've got a really interesting relationship with razor wire in so much as... Okay, razor wire costs 4 inches to climb. So it's fairly close to being impassable, but it doesn't stop shooting. So maybe there's a position where you want to place it somewhere in front of your missile launcher so he can stand behind it, obscured because he's he's a Night Lord, so be in midnight clad, shooting his missile launcher through the razor wire at people that can't get within 6 of him to in midnight clad him, because you've kind of blocked up the easy way round. And depending on the map, if there's a way that if there's a place where you want to do that, or you can do that, you could build a little bunker for the missile launcher, which is funny. I don't know if that's really a thing. Razor wire is still really good, but then as someone that's charging up the board, you want to be careful that generally speaking, you don't want to get in your own way, right? I always hated placing barricades in the previous edition with Nemesis Claw, because inevitably I would get in my own way, and I didn't really care about the barricades. There might be maps where you look at the barricades and you're like, actually, I really need to put a heavy barricade down because there's not enough heavy cover to get me all in Midnight Clan. But unless the map's really janky, like you're playing on somebody's homebrew Morok map and it's just or Octarius map or something and it's just not properly constructed, hopefully you can avoid that. So really, I think I'm looking to take a crack grenade over a grizzly trophy or a smoke grenade over a grizzly trophy. And if I don't want to take comms jammers, I'm looking at crack and smoke with the other things like ladders and razor wire sort of floating in the midst depending on the layout. I think. Let me know if I'm wrong. Tac Ops. Back to the terrible pictures for Tac Ops, sorry. Much like the Angels of Death, and potentially every Marine team, I really like Champion. So, like I said in the Angels of Death video, which you may not have watched, because maybe you just care about Nightlords, you want to be killing in Kill Team now, to score points. And so, Champion's going to push you to play that way. Let's read the card. Champion reveal. When you select your champion, your first champion, sorry. So, as a strategic gambit in each turning point after the first, you can select one friendly operative to be your champion for the turning point. In each turning point after the first, whenever your champion incapacitates an enemy operative, you score 1 VP or 2 VP if the enemy operative has a wound stat of 12 or more, to a maximum of 2. So, this is... I almost think this is tailor-made for Nightlords. Because you already, because of the way Vox Scream works, you wanted to be looking to set up charges, because you can use Vox Scream even if you don't have initiative to like guarantee that one charge is going to be allowed to happen potentially, and if you do have initiative, you can use Vox Scream to get 2 charges. Like the big problem with taking champion is when you don't have initiative and you go, he's my champion, and the opponent looks at the board and go, okay then, well I'll activate over here first and either kill him or get anyone who's a viable target of him out of the way to frustrate you scoring champion because you can't move it round, and then that's 2 VP that are lost. You've got to be scoring the 2 VP in turning point 2, 3, and 4. That's how it works now. So, yeah, I like it for Nightlords just because you got Vox Scream there to help you try and pin down the problem. You know, it could be quite funny into little weenie teams, but because you've got like proclivity for murder, just makes it really funny because you can charge, fight, do a dash charge, fight again. Like you have the exact tool that you would want to score champion against like a weenie team with 7-8 wound models as well, which is amazing. Of course you can always charge, fight, and then shoot, or shoot, charge and fight, although with Nightlords I wouldn't recommend that because you want to charge and get your D3 extra damage. But yeah, I really like champion. Overrun remains an option, right, once per turning point after the first. If an enemy operative is incapacitated by a friendly operative, that friendly operative is wholly within your opponent's territory. When it does so, you score a VP. At the end of each turning point after the first, if the total APL stat of friendly operatives that both fulfilled the above condition at that turning point, regardless of you scoring the VP and are still wholly within your opponent's territory, is 3 or more, you score 2 VP. I think the first VP, I just think Champion's better than Overrun. Like, Overrun's not bad, but I think Champion's just better for a Marine team. I mean, it's funny. Talking more widely about Tac Ops, you would never take Champion as a non-Marine team playing into a non-Marine team because you don't have the tools, really, in that setup to kill one operative, to kill 2 operatives with 1 operative. That's not likely to happen. But Marines' whole thing is they want to kill 2 operatives with 1 operative. That's what makes them work. So Champion's good for them. And playing into Marines, even as a small team, because killing a Marine counts as 2, then it becomes an option for hunting Marines as well as for hunting with Marines, which is it's a really interesting tack up. I like Champion a lot. Have a look at Infiltration because it's there. I don't want to be doing surveillance or wiretap because I don't want to be doing mission actions with my life if I can help it because I'm a Space Marine team, and I don't want to be doing implant, right, because I've hit you in combat and then I don't want to have to try and leave you alive. That it just runs really counter to what I'm trying to do. So champion. Splendid. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments, please. I'm not very good at this game, so, you know. But then again, nobody is. This brand new game. Here's my sample list. Here's what I'm probably going to play on Sunday. So, big advantage to Zimbad, who can now meta list. He won't, but he could list Taylor furiously. I take a Visionary with a Plasma Pistol and a Strom Chainblade. I take the Fearmonger, a Melter Gunner, a Missile Launcher Gunner, the Screecher and the Skinthief. I'm going to try leaving the Ventrilokar at home. I think that might be the play in this edition. And I'll report back and let you know, either in a video or on the Discord. If you think I should do something differently, you have until Sunday to yell at me and go, "Hey Phil, no, you're making a mistake." Oh. Hooray! Wow, amazing! And it's an actual one-box team that you can just go on the Games Workshop website today and buy. After doing the Angels of Death team the other day, where I'm like, well, simply buy this small 40k army, and then from it you can take your team. Really cool to be able to say, look, you buy it, you get 10 models, so you can make all the specialists, you can make all the gunners, pretty much, as well. Let me just do some quick maths. Wait, yeah, so you've got, you can do all the specialists and all the gunners. Amazing. You don't have any warriors, but you can make a warrior with a bolt pistol and a chainsword instead of a flamer, or add another one instead of a plasma gun, if you really wanted. But yeah, a one-box team, unless you want to go really absurdly deep and have the possibility to flex into absolutely everything, including warriors, for like, oh, I'm fighting a 7-wound team and maybe a warrior is a thing, but no, realistically it's a one-box team, right, unless you just hate money. Final thoughts. What have you spotted that I totally missed, and what have I said that makes no sense? Because I'm sure there will have been at least one thing. Which model, and this is really the crucial question. So I've determined, after my thought, I'm going to leave the Ventrilokar at home. People, I'm sure there'll be at least one person screaming, no, the Ventrilokar's the best one, leave this or leave that. What's the model you won't bring? Historically, in the previous edition, it was always the Heavy Gunner that I left at home, because I didn't want to have to buy the equipment that unlocked him. Now that's baked in, and the game is more about killing and less about objective control. I think I'm flexing. But let me know what you think. I have been asking what team should I do, and like absolute bastards, everyone's been like, oh, do this Eldar team. I don't really get on with Eldar teams. I don't really understand them. I am now thinking I'm going to do all the Marine teams, just because I think it's going to be really good. Marine team is a very clear archetype, where actually leaving Phobos to one side, Phobos are actually kind of litter. I think that's my hot take. Actually, no, that's Glandy's hot take, but I agree with it. You got Nightlords, you got Angels of Death, you've got Legionaries, and you've got the Thousand Sons. I don't think you need to own and play those 4 different teams. Like, not really. I think you just need to find the one that, like, maybe own and play with them all to find the one that fits you the best. But I think they're all doing the same thing, essentially, but slightly differently, and then you just find the one that gels with you the most. So I think it's going to be really interesting to review those 4 teams, one after another. So let me know, should I do Thousand Sons or Legionaries in the next video, right? So, and then I'll do Thousand Sons or Legionaries, and then I'll do whichever of those I haven't done, and then I will do Phobos as the jumping off point for doing other stuff, because that's kind of, Phobos is like half a Marine team and half a bin bag full of sausages. I don't know what Phobos, I don't really know what Phobos is about. They just don't put enough, I'll save this for the Phobos video, they just don't put enough wounds on the table. Yes. But all that being said, the next video you'll see on the channel will be about Warhammer Day, on Saturday, and then on Sunday I'll have played a game, so you'll either have my first impressions after playing a game, which I think is a very valuable video, or potentially something about building the Volcus terrain, which I also plan to get done like as soon as the box arrives. Like there's fun stuff about actually getting my hands on the plastic that I need to do as well. So there's going to be a little bit of a dip in the stream of these faction rundown videos, but it is my intention to keep trying to do a video every single day as much as is possible, and get through the faction videos as quickly as I can. But I'm not going to do multiple videos in a day. I might do for members if I make a little backlog and they get things early. So if you want things not that there is a whole backlog right now, it's not one of false advertising, but it's possible that tomorrow on Saturday in the morning or middle afternoon, I grind through and do 2 or 3, and I'll put them up for members, and then I'll release them on the channel for public when it makes sense to do so, when there's a gap, right? But thank you. Thank you to all my members, all my subscribers, and all my supporters. And I will see you tomorrow when I can wish you a very happy Warhammer Day. So, cheerio. I just have to embarrassingly dip down and find my mouse. So I can actually end the recording. If I'm very clever, I will edit this out on YouTube, but I probably won't. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Cheerio. Bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.